it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio. Today I'm sharing with you just a play session that I had. Um, I haven't been able to really think about much lately. I'm dealing with my mom and her surgery and the physical therapy and the pain management and all of that stuff is really consuming my life. She's fine. Nobody worry. Just, she's got pain because she had a total knee replacement. So there's a lot to do and a lot of places to drive her and stuff like that. So I just decided to go ahead and film this little thing I had this morning. I'm doing this thing called the 100 Days of Stencil Girl. Last year, if you guys were around when I was doing my 100 days project, I did 100 days of mixed media collage. And I mean, 100 days is a long time and you end up with a lot of stuff. But I didn't have the capacity to commit to something like that, little canvases and things like I did last year. So I decided to just make collage papers, collage fodder, using StencilGilr stencils and just join in with a bunch of other people who are doing it. If you search that hashtag, 100 Days of StencilGilr, you'll see all kinds of stencil designs that are cool in different ways that people have used them. A lot of people are posting on Instagram, as I am. But I was out of things to post. I mean, I'm sure I could, dig through my stuff and find more, but the idea is that you're making something every day, but I didn't have a chance to make anything. So I decided to just go ahead and stencil. And what I wanted to do, I don't like to waste. I don't like to waste paint. I don't like to waste paper. And I often put these sheets of deli paper underneath my workspace. I do have a silicone mat there that I can clean, but I like to just have something there that I can scrape excess paint off on and just keep my desk somewhat cleaner because I don't like to clean that mat. It doesn't clean up easily. I think it's for kitchens. Uh, it's large. I needed something really large to cover my space. And so I like the idea of that. I like to be able to keep my space somewhat clean. And I like to have that matte silicone non-reflective surface because the other thing that happens is the lights that are shining down on my desk, they can cause a glare. And so I like to have something matte there to tone that down. So I decided to use underpapers, and I have a big plastic basket that's next to my desk. It's kind of underneath my desk. And when these underpapers get too dirty, I just put them in that basket. And they're usually 12 by 12, and they've got stuff on them. They've got mark making, they've got scraped excess paint. A lot of people will scrape their excess paint into like a composition book or something, but I just scrape it onto my underpapers and then I just put them in that basket to dry to use later because I always know that I need colors of different papers to do my collage work. So I don't mind having all that painty paper. It might be getting a little bit excessive now. Some people have suggested perhaps that I make paper packs and sell them because I do have so much painty paper. But I just wanted to use some of this underpaper. So what I do is I take out a stack of them, I put them on the desk, and then I use my metal ruler to tear off any pieces that are bent or folded over or crunched, and to tear off any sections that would be reusable because just because it's just been scraped or whatever, there's sometimes some pretty little patterns on there. Maybe I flipped a stencil over and pressed it down to get the excess paint off it because I don't really clean my stencils, but that doesn't mean that I want them to be super crusty and thick and, nasty because then I will have to clean them at some point. So sometimes if I got too much paint on there, I'll flip over the stencil and just press it down on the underpaper and I'll get a design. And sometimes those pieces are really their moments, But I mean, it's junky paper. It can be made into something else. So all I'm doing today during this video while I'm talking is just stenciling. I use my gel plate a lot with my stencils, and this just proves you don't have to use your gel plate. You don't have to have a gel plate to make some really interesting paper. Stencils are magic, and StencilGirl has the best designs. Of course, I did do design for StencilGirl too, but just the one time. But I have some ideas of some other ones I want to make. I just haven't had time to do it. Life gets in the way sometimes of what you want to do in your studio. So I took the first stencil. It's designed by someone, I think her name is Jaime Fingal. I don't know. I did that one for a while. And also these paints that I'm using, a lot of them are paints that I want to use up, particularly at the beginning. Now I'm just using my regular paints in the drawer next to me because I wanted to switch colors. But that this is another way to use up, like if there's just a tiny little bit of paint in the bottle and it's getting thick and gross and clumped up that it's about had its day, you can use it up doing this too. So it's a good way to just not waste and make something pretty out of something that was maybe a little bit substandard beforehand. So now I'm on my second stencil. This one was from a mashup. I belong to Stencil Club, which is a thing that StencilGirl offers, and it's like $25 a month. And you get stencils that are exclusive to the club, and oftentimes they will have mashups between two different designers. And this particular stencil is a mashup from two different designers, Mary Beth Shaw and Christy Taylor. And it reminds me of this tile floor. It was in Ireland in a church, and it seemed like every single tile was, well, I mean, I know they were old. They were super, super old, and they're handmade, but they also almost seem like they were made by different people. I mean, the designs are similar, but it's a really interesting floor. I have some pictures of it, but I don't know where they are right now. But this this stencil reminds me of it. Just the way the things are aligned together and crisscross these little channels crisscross on it. I think it was probably design inspired by some type of tiles, handmade tiles, is my guess. I probably should know, but I don't know for sure. But I'll bet you it was because that's really what it looks like. Also, iron grates. When I was in Ireland again at that same trip, a lot of the older buildings in the older part of the city that I was in had iron grates. And also on the ground, there was iron grates, and it reminds me of that too. So it could have been that. But I'm not doing a technique per se. I am taking these pieces of paper. Sometimes I cover them with an underlayer of paint, and then sometimes I don't and just let whatever's underneath it show. But all I'm doing is just using paint, using, sponges, stencil technique. Make sure that you don't have too much paint on your stencil. If it's thin paint, then you really need to be careful. This is more of a heavy body paint, which is good for stenciling because it's not inclined to spread as much, and so you can stencil pretty quickly. Of course, this is sped up. I probably spent an hour and a half doing this morning just for fun, just because. And so put some paint on a palette or a piece of paper or whatever. Then take your sponge, whatever type of sponge you're using. I was using stencil brushes that I really enjoy. They're makeup brushes actually, but they're kind of like a toothbrush makeup brush. I was using those at first, but then they all got dirty, so then I had to switch to cheap sponges. These are just dollar store makeup sponges. But pat your sponge in the puddle of paint and then pat it off next to it so that there's not a big bunch of clumps of paint on there, because when you squish down with your sponge, it'll want to go under the stencil and you won't get a clean image. Here's what I was talking about. Sometimes I like to use the reverse, the paint that is on the stencil, and pull up a reverse image of it. But in this case, you can't really tell. Did the pink go over the black or the black go over the pink? Sometimes it's hard to tell on them. But that was my second stencil that I messed with. And yeah, like I said, this was a mashup stencil between Mary Beth Shaw and Christy Taylor. Looks like tiles. Looks like iron grates. It's pretty fun. And then I used one more stencil, and um, this one is called Tribal Leaves by Kae Pea. And I think it kind of looks like tribal masks a little bit, but they're leaves. So I'm going to use that one next, and I wanted to just make that little piece all the way black. And then I got out these color shift paints. Remember, we did some gel printing with these. They're the paints that, depending on what kind of background you put them on, can change color. If you put them on black, they look different than if you put them on white. And sometimes they're pink, sometimes they're blue. Like one paint will be pink and blue, one paint will be black and gold, one paint will be yellow and green or yellow and orange. So they're kind of a little bit different. They're made by Folk Art. But I thought it would be fun to play with those a little bit stenciling. So I got them out. Didn't last long. I did play with them a little bit. So then still grabbing some more torn up underpaper. One thing that's kind of weird about this underpaper is that a lot of times it has matte medium on it, because when I'm gluing something down to a project, I'll have this piece of paper and I'll put my matte medium onto the back of the piece of paper I'm gluing down, and then onto the substrate, and then put the paper over the top and press it down to make sure I get a good seal. So a lot of these papers are kind of wrinkled, and in the places where the matte medium are, they almost kind of feel like vinyl or something. I don't know. It's weird. So the paper turns out different than using a brand new, fresh piece of paper, because it's going to be wrinkled, it's going to be creased, and I'm just doing my best to press it down and make sure that it'll be usable again. Now that stuff I just poured out is called Dragonfly Glaze, and it's just basically like a clear glaze that has a bunch of glitter in it, and it takes it a long time to dry, so I'm just not messing with it. But I put some on just for fun. I'm trying to pull some of that paint off again onto something else, which makes a different pattern. And as you look at the pictures, all the papers are different, and some of them are really unique in that they have a lot of different colors on them that I didn't put on there. You wouldn't know that that's how I made it necessarily. Like, it looks a lot more complicated than they actually are, if guess what is what I'm saying. So I had my gel plates, and I just grabbed those. They were sitting next to me on the shelf on this little piece of acrylic already, my 12 by 12 acrylic. And these are, I think, 6 by 6 and 5 by 7. And I figured I would play with the gel plate. I really enjoy doing gel plate printing, but you absolutely do not have to have a gel plate to make interesting paper with stencils. It's really just, you can just stencil them. Just stencil them with different colors. You know, get 3 colors that are similar, like yellow, orange, and red, and put them all together on one stencil, and you've got something really interesting. And if the paper underneath happens to already have colors on it, then it makes it even more interesting. So one thing that I do is when I'm putting away my papers, I tear off the excess, or if I'm taking pictures of them, I'll tear it off with a metal ruler, and I end up with these strips. And you know what? I just save the strips too. That's how obsessive I am of not throwing things away. So these, you can just gel print the strips by just laying them one on top of each other in a row onto your plate and get something. So this underpaper, I was using it to roll off some of the paint, and I just tore it up, and I'm going to use it too. No sense in throwing it away just because it has a lot of different colors and a lot of different paint on it. Makes it interesting, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know that there's not much to it. I mean, I should have done it maybe as a live stream, but I don't ever really do live streams on this channel, so I didn't even think about it. Then maybe I would have had some people to talk to or something, but it's just stenciling, making my my pieces for the 100 days of Stencil Girl. And the way that I'm doing it is using one stencil a day. Some people are using a color family, like maybe they'll use pink and purple one day, use blues the next day, use, like that, with a lot of different stencils. Some people are putting multiple stencils together on the same piece, which of course is beautiful, beautiful to layer up your stencils. I just happen to be doing it this way, just because I am. I don't know. Featuring a stencil a day seems okay. I don't know. I guess I could change my mind if I want to. There's still plenty of days left. I think this was day 20, 21, and 22. So I've got a lot of days left. So just gel printing again with with these pieces of paper that now they're like so wet now. They've got so much paint on them. They'll be very sturdy when I go to use them. So if you guys enjoyed this, remember to give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment or question below. Tell me if you're doing the 100 Days of Stencil Girl or if you are doing a 100 Days project, what you're doing. And I'll try to follow you on Instagram if you're posting your whatever 100-day thing you're doing. I know people, you can do anything. It absolutely does not have to have anything to do with stencils or Stencil Girl. This is just what I'm doing. You can do watercolor. You could do 100 days of illustrations. You could, anything you want. Even probably photography. You could do 100 days of some kind of photos or landscape paintings or whatever you're into. So if you are doing it, let me know and tell me where you're posting, and I'll follow you. So I'm just about done. This is the last couple prints that I made with this tribal leaf stencil, and the pictures will be at the end. Now I'm using that torn up calendar planner pieces, which I still have a ton of them to use up. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.